Cross River is about MMORPG, an online game where only one person is recognized as the Lord of Demons, and our protagonista is our Lord Demon and a player very powerful. The motive for him playing so seriously is to destroy couples. He's called Sakamoto, and at this point he can't imagine he'll be invocated to another world as a Lord Demon until he woke up in another world receiving 2 kisses. He's an invocation of a pregnancy ritual, but he doesn't understand anything at that moment. He didn't even talk to women. Actually, he usually didn't talk with anyone, only with girls that challenged him on the game. He decides to get on character and introduces himself as Demon. None of the girls understand the motive of the invocation, but when they started arguing, the demons orders them to make things up and uses magic for that, and they end up becoming his slaves thanks to the ring of the Lord Demon, which reflects any magic. The elf girl ends up being enslaved by an invocation, but they would have to solve that on the city, because they need the demon's power to prove their force as adventurers. But the demon says he's not an invocation, but a demon lord feared by everyone. When they get to the city, they go straight to the inn where the elf asks to stay on the same room as him, and the cat girl too, leaving him shocked. They end up arguing until the receptionist threatened them and they all end up on the same room. Now, the leader of the Wizards Association appears, Celestine, who keeps the city's barrier. She only wanted to talk with the cat, but then she noticed they became slaves of the guy that appeared. And after hearing the story, she asks if the demon can free them. But he said that's not possible because he didn't even know how he did it on the first place. The cat girl said she didn't need a bodyguard, that she could protect herself, and this makes the boy curious, wondering why is the cat so important. So he grabs her and says he'll torture her, and the elf says she'll stay there eating while they're gone. The girl said that if she tells him, he will also leave her. But he goes above her and says he'll torture her, but he ends up confused noticing he's alone with her on a bed, so he decides to play around with her a little. She didn't say anything, so he played a little bit more with her, letting himself go off the main goal again. But at least this time she talked, and before she did it he bit her ear, making her scream. The elf, downstairs, heard it and decided to order something else to eat. The cat said the soul of the demon lord is sealed on her, being the chief most powerful of the game, and her goal is to defeat the demon inside her. The devil said that, if she died, the demon will be free, and there is not other way for it to appear, and only Celestine knows about that. All of that is hereditary, so the boy said he'll end with the demon's soul and find a way to distract him, making her cry of happiness. The boy is thinking until a guy that was rude to him before appears with a group and tries to cause trouble, invocating a level 30 salamander to kill him. But our devil, the protagonist, kills the salamander easily and introduces himself as the demon lord of another world. Now the devil actually understands he's in another world and wakes up with the 2 girls by his side and takes the opportunity to play around a little bit with their chest. And when the elf wakes up, said he will be able to do that only when they become his masters. When the cat wakes up, desperate, he starts sweeting. While they're walking on the street, the boy is impressed for the amount of races that are there, and there was no human around. He finds out this world measured power in levels. The elf still didn't have any, but the cat was on the 40 level, and once they were registered on the guild, they'll be able to take missions and to have their own accommodation. When they arrive the guild, the devil gets tense because of the vibe of the place, and while the elf was doing her inscription, the devil remembers he doesn't know how to read on that world, and asks her to write by him, only resting his blood signature. And now it's the time of the level measurement mirror, being the elf the first one, who has 30 level, getting sad because he lost against the cat. Now is the devil's turn, but when he touches it everything turns black, calling everyone's attention, including the guild's masters. She called them to talk and said she wouldn't be able to measure the devil's level since it was above their knowledge. If he wanted to join the guild he'll have to receive orders from weaker people, but even so he decides to get in. She looks for a mission of their level. After 5 hours they finally make it to where the monster was, but the elf feels the presence of a few people, so the devil gets ready to fight, and uses his magic to them before they could even think about attacking them. But they all were elves that were there to rescue the elf, since she was a princess and the mission was actually made by them to save her from the pregnancy necklace. The elf refuses to go with them, because they only want her to give birth to inherit her, and she says she belongs to herself. They decide to take her by force, but he starts saying they made a big mistake becoming his enemy, and then he asked if they fight against demonic beasts. When he finds out they didn't, he finds out why their levels were so low. The elf gets ready to throw an arrow, but the devils stop it, and using a little ice magic he freezes the half of them, defeating all of them. A wizard appears and insults the elves for their bad work, and the devil threatens him, letting him quite scared. The cat threatens him also, and he runs away desperate. The elf only says she won't come back home. that she will stay with her colleagues. When they get to the inn, the devil is alone with the elf because the cat went to talk to Clestine what happened. But he can't even think about what they could talk about. When the elf says about their magic, he says he knows everything about the levels, and that the people of this world lives on peace so they won't die. So it's complicated to increase the level of the people, and he says he comes from a place where levels control everything. But he doesn't know if he'll be able to defeat that demon. Then the elf asks him if he chose the cat and throws herself at him, saying she also needs him, being above her. He starts playing with her again, saying he didn't choose anyone because he's the demon lord. The elf takes the opportunity to play, but then the cat appears, mad at them both. After completing the mission, the chief has another mission for the devil. This time will be an actual mission, not a trap, because it was sent by Clestine. It's a simple mission with a great reward, but the cat says she won't do it because she doesn't want to owe anything to Celestine. But they don't have enough money, so the elf and the demon will go anyway. But the cat will stay on the city, since the mission was only to deliver some drinks. But even so, the cat is indignant. While they're going out, a warrior went talk to the devil, saying he's an unusual horned demon with 2 slaves, being this one the most powerful warrior of guild, called Emily. He challenges the devil to a fight, and this makes our protagonist excited, so playing the demon lord role he accepts. But when the warrior says he loves all women and that he wanted the girls to be free of the slavery, he doubts it. But seeing his style of fight, the devil gets excited again. The problem is the warrior is very obvious, so the devil defeats him quickly, not even using magic. When the guy gets up to the second round, the girls asks him to stop because they're with the necklace because of their own mistake, and that the devil was actually helping them. This left the warrior calmer and went away more calmed. While they're delivering the drinks, the elf gets bored and gives the idea of getting on a lake. But after the devil imagines the scene, he says to cancel that idea, and that they needed to be careful because sometimes strong monsters appear on missions of low level. Then she hugs him and says that is okay, and that she's not as strong as he is, so until she gets that strong, she'll need his help. They arrive to the city. They're stopped on the entrance because of the devil's horns, but a guard knows about him. They were being cautious because they heard there was a giant of demons that's going to them, leaving even the devil shocked because, even on the game, the demons were very strong beings. This was a large-scale invasion that's never been possible on the game, and for this he thinks that place will be destroyed by that giant. The elf says all that is to relive the demon, but even for the devil will be complicated to fight against a lot of demons. They receive a thank you letter for the wine they delivered, and the guard said that will be his last day. And he wanted to live it properly, because they couldn't back off to save the citizens, so the devil decided to help them, saying it wouldn't be his last day. He went to the bridge alone, waiting for the demons, and when a demon comes at him, he's quickly pushed away. On the other hand, Celestine was apologizing to the cat, saying that the wizard that tricked them has been expulsed, but also that the devil has been proclaimed as the demon lord. So the cat said he is, but from another world. But they can't believe that because they can't understand how someone could invocate him. There's the possibility of him being a demon, what pisses the cat off, saying he accepted it. And then one of the wizards claims he must be expulsed because he punched everyone. But a demon appears out of nowhere and stabs him on his chest, someone who turned into a demon. Meanwhile, the devil is defeating all the demons, even at the leader of them, who is a very strong leader. They will fight, and this will be definitive for the victory. All of the citizens went to the barrier where there weren't demons, but the demon that appeared before, who killed the wizard, was there and couldn't be stopped. The blonde warrior appears to save them, along with different adventurers, but not even the sword of the strongest warrior was enough to fight that demon. The demon ends the warrior with a single attack, but even so the warrior insists and gets up to fight again. The devil, on the other hand, was on a delay fight, being the girl of 80 level. She decided to use a different magic that would consume her life's energy, and he decides to take all the attacks so she would break her fight spirit. And he only gets some pain on his elbow with such great attack, what leaves her desperate. But even so, she's waiting for something else. And then the devil finds out the city's being attacked by a demon, so he decides to end this fight quickly. He uses a very strong magic based on a ball of light that ends all the demons and destroys everything around them. But somehow the girl survived, leaving him surprised. But with no time for games, he decides to teleport to the city. They get right on time to save the warrior, who thanks him. And when he goes to the demon, this one says he'll kill him and destroy the barrier. But none of that will work because the protagonist had already ended with his army, and he wouldn't have mercy on him. With some simples attack, he already breaks his armor, and all the attacks the demon throws against him, he turns them against him but doubled in strength, sealing the demon to a dark dimension. After this, the devil was with his energy very low, and the cat goes at him and thanks him for everything. He doesn't know what to say, so he only says he owns them, and for some reason they get excited and he ends up passing out for the excitement. After the incident, there was a funeral because of the city's losses, because they wouldn't revive like in the game. And all the citizens tried to help with something to rebuild the city. The devil was resting, all lazy, when the elf went at him, showing him almost half of her body. But the cat came to save him. But because she wouldn't let him go, the cat decides to grab him too, and now Sylvie arrives with information about the elves' king, who wanted the elf to be carried there within 10 days, or they would start a war. Their target will be to avoid that. On his mind, he rejected the mission without thinking, but in his heart he knew he had to protect her. Also, Sylvie explained there will be a good reward, so good a normal citizen wouldn't have to work anymore. So he shows his energy and says he would not let anyone put a finger on her, but before that he'll find the Lord Defaulter, the hero of that city. 80 years ago he fought with the demon lord and a lot of demons, and for that they didn't know his level, so he should be careful with what he says. When they get to the mansion of the lord, the devil is pretty scared, so Sylvie asks for more information about the mission, and when the man introduces himself, the devil gets all scared but still manages to introduce himself normally as the demon lord of another world. Everyone is shocked with this introduction, but the guy is okay with that and shows them the forest where the elves are hiding. And when he asks why the elf left a life full of luxuries, she says she wanted to find her own value by herself. So they say they'll end up with the war, and the man said he had a help for them. Alice, an imperial warrior, gives money to Sylvie because of the incidents the demon caused, and says that she's with the elf on this. The demon sees her and thinks she's quite crazy, and that she could find out his play of being the demon lord, so he uses his best actuation. That convinces the girl. The devil decided to go to a gun store and buys a scythe. And when they went to buy poisons, they end up being crushed. And when the devil ends that, he sees the elf was being kidnapped, and they keep being intercepted by bounty hunters. Our protagonist defeats them one by one to go to get the elf back again, and the warrior, wanting to thank the devil for saving him, appears and helps, saying he wants to give back what they did with him. He said he'll show this hunters how important a woman is, and also explains that they aren't the only ones running after them. Seeing this, the devil asks the elf not to separate of him, and she takes advantage of that and grabs him. And of course the cat wouldn't let only the elf to do so. And before they went to the elf village, Alice gets hungry. Celestine, apparently, found a way to take the necklaces out of the girls because a lot of slaves got to the city, and they can find, with someone specialized, how to take them off. But Alice thinks to solve the other problem is now a priority. But the devil wants to solve the necklaces issue as soon as possible. When they go to the slaves market, the devil doesn't know how to act because on the real world they didn't have a place like that. But when he gets inside, there are slaves being well cared for. When they show the woman a letter to take the necklaces out of the girls, she says that is the first time she faces a influenced magic, but that she will try. But before starting, she feels an evil energy inside the cat. But the devil decides to end the matter and sends Alice and the cat out of the room while he takes care of that. The cat is pretty upset because she's been almost caught, and Alice, to cheer her up, makes a child's play with her, and without wanting she used a magic on her, but the cat didn't even notice. To be able to break the necklace, the elf had to wear a specific kind of clothes, and the devil will have to see her power flow, but to do that he'll have to touch her. However, imagining her staff, he manages to see it, but still he'll have to touch where the more intense amount of flow was. He touches and can't find the end of the flow. But when he lowers his hand, he can almost get to the nucleus of it. But he desisted, because the flow power inside the necklaces were an incredible amount of tangled wire, and he will have to disperse one by one. When they were getting ready to sleep, they heard the sound of a flute, being one of them made by the elf's brother, the first prince of the elves, Carol. But the devil goes at him upset, and he says there's been a misunderstanding and that he doesn't want to start any war, that his father is only worried for his daughter and feels bad for ignoring her feelings. But she can't believe him because it's sudden change, but he says he will leave and come back the next day, and even if she doesn't come back with him, there wouldn't be any war. But when he asks what the devil will do if she wants to come back, he says there will be nothing to do, making the elf go out of there with a smile. On the middle of the night, the elf and the cat talked, and the elf said she wouldn't come back because her decision was made, and she couldn't know whether he was lying or not. And even so, she didn't like to be an adventurer forever. She'll like to open a coffee where the cat will be a waitress and the devil will clean the plates, since they were her first friends. The cat says she can't be a part of her dream because she has a big problem. But after that problem is solved, she'll go join her on her coffee. Then the elf puts her on a bed and starts playing with her, not letting the devil sleep. Later at night we see the elf is playing his flute, saying he will have a son with her. There was a time where the protagonist had friends, or that's what he thought, because on his back they talked bad things about him. But he wakes up of his dream and sees the cat arrive to inform what happened with the prince, and to be careful with that. The elf says she will easily reject him to end with everything. To be prepared, the devil will do some poisons. But he's distracted. And even so, he made the poison automatically. He can't understand how he did that. But then he realizes that when he's distracted, his body do things automatically, thanks to his alchemist ability. He says to the elf to give a lot of attention to him so he can focus on something else, and like that he ended up doing a lot of poisons. He ends up smiling a lit when the elf says she loved his face, and then he notices he didn't smile to anyone on that world, and that at some point he could be able to talk normally with someone. He ends up saying some cute things to her, but when the elf was about to answer, they start hearing the flute again, so she says she'll go back home with the prince. The devil can't understand her change of mind, but however, she goes with the prince and he can't do anything about it because they said they'll respect her decision. At that moment the cat appears and the devil tells her the elf went back home, and when she asks him what he's going to do about it, he only goes to sleep without understanding what's happening and depressed for everything. The cat asks when he'll go to save her, saying the elf could not lie to anyone, and she had talked about her dreams with her and that both of them were included on them, and that she's probably under some magic that can control minds. But the devil knows about that, and that it started when the flute was played, but this wasn't like the game and he couldn't prove it, just like the time his friends betrayed him. But the cat says that even if it wasn't in hypnosis, she was still being deceived, but he doesn't want to be thrown aside again. He remembers everything the elf told him and decides to go with the cat to find her, all excited again. And Alice decides to go with them too. Her decision means she'll lose her position as an imperial warrior, but she doesn't care. We see on the next scene the elf is being arrested by the elf, who tells her he played a song to hypnotize her and that now she couldn't challenge him. He uses magic to force her tell what the devil forced her to do, and she answered that he only made her grab the cat's hand, leaving him shocked. Then he said he will play a lot with her body, but he's interrupted by some kind of explosion. He keeps talking to her saying she should get prepared to have his child, and when he's about to let her submissive, the devil appears with the women. He says he should stop the elf when she went with him, and frees the elf. When the prince asks about his soldiers, he sees all in flames with the fallen soldiers. He takes the elf with her, and when he asks her how she is, she only says she has to come back home because of magic, and then he ordered her to say truly what she wanted, ending with the magic, and then she cried and said she wanted to be free and stay with them, letting the elf furious. The elf sent the stronger monster to fight them, and while the devil will take care of it, the girls stayed away from the battle. He starts throwing stones against it, but when a head was destroyed, it would regenerate, worrying the devil because invocations aren't supposed to have more than one skill. So he started thinking this could be a world very alike to the game. And luckily the elf said the monster must have a nucleus somewhere, but that it would move around the whole body. So the devil throws a lightning magic and destroys it completely from the inside. The elf saw this and was scared to death, but when the devil was about to end him, the elf stops him, saying she hates him but he was still her family. However, the leader of the city arrived and killed him, saying that was a war against elves and that they will eliminate all of them and capture the princess. He putted the devil on some kind of barrier he didn't know, because it was a magic to capture giant monsters. Alice tries to attack him, but the man, without her noticing, broke her sword. He was level 100. The devil tries to find the flow of mana of the barrier, managing to destroy it. So now the Lord will have to talk seriously against a devil that tells him he'll make him feel desperate. The Lord is too fast and doesn't give space to the devil so he can use his magic, but he could read his movements and putted traps in the entire floor. He took advantage of all his openings, and even if it was hard, the devil is the devil and managed to hit an attack on him. This was the stronger opponent he faced until now. But when he asks for mercy, the devil realizes if he didn't do that he will go after them again, and think is better to intimidate him, saying he's very weak and he is not even a threat for them, even alive. But the man threatens, saying he'll do a report to the capital, leaving him with no words. But Alice said she wouldn't let him, so the devil said he'll face him at any time, but if he attacked his wives he will destroy everything, making him retire with his soldiers. The cat gave him healer poisons to heal the elves, but she first asks him to take care of the elf since she was very sad with the loss of her brother. After 3 days of this war, life continues normally for the citizens that doesn't even know what happened. Alice is at the capital and says everything that happened to the Emperor. The devil, on the other hand, is more lazy than ever because he lost all his mana. And now Sylvie appears with an alcoholic drink that helps to recover the mana. He's not used to drink, but he thinks he won't get drunk because of the devil's body. However, he gets drunk with 1 cup and confuses Sylvie with the pillow, and ends up rubbing on her and ends up touching inappropriate places and sleeping with her.